of our crime pisokadai. Ya nasi vedive yati nayo yakangoboma yese yachitagwa na system tazvida kuva mutukudzi vakasarira muyashere vakatipa ushanda kavo kekukurudzira taiwaka you must continue to work. And that's why this discussion is very timely. Also, as we are focusing on Africa Month, we want to talk about promoting decent work in Zimbabwe's informal sector. And this is a space, if you can imagine, that is sustaining a lot of people in our country. Dare I say millions. Yet, as you may know, it remains largely unregulated. It may be vulnerable and often is gendered in its inequalities. Let me break that down for you. Across the sub-Saharan Africa, women are the backbone of the informal economy. In countries like Ghana, for example, 8 out of 10 women are working informally compared to 5 out of 10 men. Yet when it comes to things like taxation or even regulation, in terms of how women in the informal sector may benefit in terms of taxation. Often they may face multiple layers of taxation, and that's not what this conversation is about, really. Let's move fast forward. Here in Zimbabwe, informal businesses are not always small, and surprisingly, they're not always struggling. Actually, professionals, sometimes with even bigger organizations, are also operating informally. In other words, and in Uganda, for instance, between 2011 and 2014, fewer than 1 in every 3 top lawyers in Uganda were paying their income tax. So here's the plot twist, and this is why this conversation is important this morning. As we ask important questions about how we can create decent work for you, whatever work that you're doing and you know you are informal, how do we support you, but also without reinforcing not only structural inequalities, how do we make sure that a thriving informal business is also contributing fairly to public resources? And more importantly, how do we promote decent work within a sector often outside the protection of labor laws? Donya yetu Dr. Anisha yoyi, and iwe uchiza basa rakara unaita 0719-100-404. You probably recognize that you are indeed operating outside the regulatory framework of labor laws. Rako rinotonetsa kuti kana takutsvaga ma NEC nei tinogona kumashaiwa nekuti rako riri kuzhe nezviri kuonekwa pamutemo. And yet, so mwana wevu nyika chivakwa nevene vayo, it is your right to make sure that you have a sense of dignity about the work that you do and where you are working. And that's why, to unpack this conversation, we've got a very esteemed panel. Makusena Naya. Let me start off by welcoming our guest that is from afar. I was talking about Uganda actually a minute ago, and we actually had to go all the way to Uganda, Kampala this morning. Odiama Sunday, he works in research and is an information officer as far as Uganda building construction is concerned. He is passionate about the construction industry in Uganda. Mr. Sunday, good morning. Welcome to Capital.
Yes, good morning to you, my sister. Good morning, listeners. I'm very glad to join you today in our topical discussion on the issues of decent work. Because in a labor fraternity, a pinch to a brother in Zimbabwe is a similar case in Uganda. It's a similar case in North Africa. It's a similar case in West Africa.
Got you.
Thank you so much for bringing me on to share with you also our insights from Uganda.
Got you. And we're quite excited actually to hear what you have to share with us. The interesting thing is we also have in studio Tapiwa. Tapiwa is a finance director. He is also working with SMEs Development Corporation, SMEDCO, in Zimbabwe. He is one of those big wigs helping us to empower small and medium businesses so that they have strategic capital growth, so that they can also measure the impact that you're doing. Tapiwa is your go-to guy with over 15 years in accounting. to help you figure that out. Tapiwa, good morning. Thank you so much for being on Capital.
Thank you, Yolake. I'm honored to be here today. Good morning, listeners. I hope we are going to have a very fruitful engagement.
I think we will. Lastly, but in no way least, it is there and Vanani also has over 20 years actually in HR spaces. He is the guy who is responsible for strategic communication when it comes to Vashandi, the backbone of any business. Vanani, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you in studio this morning.
Good morning, Folake. Good morning, Zimbabwe. Thank you for listening to Capital 100.4 FM.
Let me start off by going to Mr. Sande Odiama. Now, when we are looking at the definition of informal worker, sometimes I think it seems relative, or as if we understand what the term actually means. And we know many informal workers are probably struggling with things like burnout, but we'll come to that. For you, Odiama, when you think about an informal worker, how do you define what an informal worker is?
Thank you so much. Informal worker, of course, in context of Africa, first of all, population. In our country, actually 80% of our countries are including informal worker. Informal workers are people who are doing a job in agriculture, who are doing job in trading, in eventing. So basically, these are people who are doing a job that is not really, that is so much not regulated, where there is where it's not covered by the law, which has been regulated actually. However, it's really precarious in nature that it's been affected by a lot of lack of legal work rights, no access to formal employment or property exploitation. Those are things that actually define what actually an informal worker is. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got you. Right. And as somebody who's working in construction all the way in Uganda, what do you think decent work must look like?
A decent work, first of all, a decent work is supposed to be like a work that is productive and it delivers a fair income, which has a security at the workplace, and there's also a social protection for the family, which is expected to deliver better prospects for personal development and come up.
All right, got you.
In order to come up to advocate for space, for our rights, to organize ourselves so that we can be able to have a common market, we can be able to lobby for social protection.
Got you. All right.
It's a symbol of nature. Okay. And secondly, we must also be able to advocate to the government to promote evolution of the system of our businesses.
All right. So I just want you to hold that thought, Odiama. Hold that thought because that's an important thought and we want to come to it. Now, Tapiwa Navanani, you're listening to Odiama giving us his experience from a Ugandan perspective of what decent work should look like. Tapiwa, you've worked with medium to medium enterprises, Munom Zimbabwe. What are some of the practical steps that you're seeing as SMEDCO taking to help those who are in the informal sector to formalize without also strangling or stifling them towards decent work?
Okay, thank you. So, I think Mr. Sande Odiama mentioned some very important tenets of decent work. But in terms of our effort as SMEDCO to assist micro, small and medium enterprises in terms of moving towards formalization and also the provision of a decent workspace, you look at one of the most important things, financial inclusion. So in terms of growth of SMEs, one of the challenges that they all face is affordable and patient capital, which is tailor-made to their needs, which also speaks to their lack of security. So SMEDCO has come up with some products where one can easily access finance in terms of loans, order finance, and related products, but you don't necessarily have to own property and have title deed. You can bring what you have. We accept immovable properties. We accept insurance. For example, if you want a loan, we can arrange an insurance with an insurance partner. The partner then guarantees your loan. And one of those key products is the one that we call Chieza Kanya Mama, where we are now assisting mainly women who are in the informal sector. And the women, they don't have to bring any security. We've got an arrangement with this institution, which is called the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, ECGC. And it's just guaranteed. And the good thing, surprisingly, the surprising issue, when you are dealing with women, they tend to have a very, very low to even zero NPL. They repay. So those are some of the initiatives. You also look something that we've come to understand as a corporation at SMEDCO is the fact that the more you provide decent workspace accommodation, like where to work from, then whoever then comes into those accommodations, they tend to start to operate along formal lines. So it's also an area that we should also consider as a nation if we want to move towards formalization. So I'm happy that our government has actually brought online the new market in Mpare there. Those are some of the initiatives that actually assist in making sure that the informal players become formal, though we know that sometimes other players then just decide to remain informal. But those are some of the initiatives that we are doing closer at home at SMEDCO.
0719 100 404 wakateerera wena uchimati yako uri pabasa pamwe izvo zvimuri kutotengesa madomasi enyu, maybe you know very well that your business is not regularized. You are certainly not paying taxes for whatever reason. This is not a judgment zone. As you're listening in, do you feel as if you certainly are enjoying the benefits of decent work according to our labor laws? Do you feel as if whatever it is that you're doing, you yourself are protected? Now, when we're looking at ILO, they come through, it says when we're talking about decent work, we're saying an employer must feel that, one, they're getting what they're supposed to be getting. They are supposed to have their fundamental human rights protected and covered. For example, when you need to go to the bathroom, that's a very basic example that I'm just giving to you. So it's not just about having a job, it's about making sure that when you wake up in the morning, you yourself are feeling human rather than dehumanized by the nature of the work that you are doing. Now, Vanani, when we look into social security, workers in the informal sector, do you think that they are entitled to social security? Pension, contribution, I too will be able to get some assistance.
Thank you for that. Decent work tarisa nekona, especially ngatimbotanga taitarisa in the context ye definition yacho sezvataurwa na vasande vari kuUganda kuti kana chiri decent work chii and chinoincluda chii. Muno muZimbabwe tikatarisa definition ye decent work yedu inoratidza kuti ngati muchataura zvangu nechirungu asi ndangada kuti ndinyatsotsanangura kuti vanhu vanyatsonzwisisa. Apa tinenge tichitarisa basa rinonzi riri productive, and this should include varume navakadzi, because the aspect of men and women, this is productive work which includes men and women, and should deliver a fair income. 1, 2, zvataura kuti inava neaspect of social security yatichataura nezvayo, protection, and also there should be justice, that there should be respect of our laws, both local and international laws, in terms of labor laws. That's decent work. And it should be also able to create jobs, and also aspect of social dialogue. But kana tazotarisa zvamataura imimi kuti look, kana tichitarisa vanhu vanosenza pambare pamusika vanenge vapuwa mari nehama yangu naTapiwa vane protection yesocial protection muno muZimbabwe is a very serious challenge yekuti ndanga ndichimbonzvera ndichiita karesearch kangu ndokona kuti NASA is nowhere, is not visible. Pension havana, munhu anokuvara ari pambare akasenga tswanda yake odona ari pabasa. There is no protection. NASA is not coming in because vanhu ivava havasi registered kuNASA. Havana any other form of insurance. Saka as a result, it's a very serious challenge in Zimbabwe. Even my conditions avo anoda kuti ainspectwe, especially maybe neve health neve chi apana. Zvavanga chitaura zvekuti vanhu unoda kuenda kunozvibatsira muimba yemukati. Zvinhu izvozvo hatina muno muZimbabwe. It's a very serious challenge. And according to the ILO, I think every year vanogara pasi vanotarisa nyaya iyi yeemployment and decent work. Vonyatsonzvera nyika dzese zooneka kuti ndezvipi zvatingaita kuti tibatsire vanhu vakadai. And also kuti tive neyatinoti decent work ina matraits andataura aya. Saka one of those things ndevekuti vanokurudzira kuti especially the public and private sector to formalize nzvimbo dzakadai kana vashandi, let's say tutarisa pano paGlenview panapa paarea 7 pano makomano vanoveza, you would find everyone aripo ipo paya ane skill, but nenyaya yekuti umwe nomwe anozviitira hapana vanoita pakabatana. Saka tinenge tichikurudzwa kuti hurumende nevamwewo vari muprivate sector ngavauye veformalize. Kana vaformalize, then that aspect of social security kicks in. People are now registered kuNASA, vavana mapension funds anouya into, and also nyaya dzehealth dzinobva dzaita come into. Saka decent work muno muZimbabwe, especially the formal sector yedu, is a very serious challenge.
All right, so are we saying outside companies formalizing, then that means whoever is in the informal sector is not going to enjoy the benefits or cannot enjoy the benefits from NASA as long as they are not formalized? She will never enjoy the benefits of social security in our country. But Tapiwa.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so maybe let me just add another dimension to when we are defining decent work. The element of illegality. So you can't define decent work when whatever the trade that's being carried out is illegal. So you should make sure that whatever you're doing is illegal. So if you also then look at it, there are a lot of players in the informal sector who are also engaged in illegal activities. That does not qualify as decent work. So in terms of then the coverage, you see, NASA has got a key role to play in this economy. It's important. That's why it's even there. It has faced some challenges in recent history, which also include when we changed our currencies and all that stuff, which affected its asset base. So it's also a little bit struggling in terms of rebuilding and also making sure that there are decent payouts to the pensioners.
Right.
But then it's not the only player, right? NASA is a statutory creature, but there are other pension players who can also come into the space, take advantage of the opportunity. Well, this is an opportunity, so there's need for some creativity from the players who are in that space to make sure that you also cover the needs of these informal. Because remember, most of the informal players, they also do this for survival. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you can only wake up to a certain age, and beyond that, you need to be protected. So I think what's just lacking from our end is that innovativeness from all the players. We should be able to capture this market. Yeah. Maybe the only other issue that I may then also mention is in terms of the NASA, the act which enacts the existence of that institution. The last time I checked, they actually excluded domestic workers. So it's something that we need as a nation to relook and reconsider.
Yeah.
Are we sure we should continue that path? Because they constitute a huge number. Remember, every household nowadays kind of like includes a domestic worker.
It's Capital 100.4 FM. This Workers on Wednesday. We are looking at what decent work should look like for you as a Zimbabwean, particularly if you are in the informal sector. How does it apply to you? We're looking at social security at the moment. Mr. Sunday, I want you to come in here. When you are in Uganda, do you feel as if the informal sector should expect social security? How is Uganda navigating this?
Thank you so much. You know, what my colleague was just spoken, the similar thing that the government will speak. But of course, one thing that we, as of course, on the labor fraternity, we look at is the commitment of the government in doing what they talk. They don't do what they talk, but they rather there is a different thing that happens. They lack safety. So what we consider to be actually decent worker that they should be able to do for us is that they must be able to implement policies and programs that support the transition of informal enterprises and workers to the to formal economy, which is for instance, one. We look at most of these informal, most of our areas, they lack structure that could support that could support the informal into formal,
right? Like
the market,
right?
And therefore, if government can come in, for instance, like right now in Uganda, what is happening right now is that the government has taken up an initiative to improve all the urban infrastructure, like the roads, the building stores in the market, to at least ensure that there is an orderly, organized business. And also, the URA has come up and also, of course, the URA is the agency that actually collects revenue. They come up with a portal where traders are able to watch to register. But there have been challenges in this project, in this program. For instance, you find these informal work, those who have registered, they are exorbitant being taxed. Some of the taxes are not well claimed to these traders. And you realize that these infrastructures are not being completed in time. They end up causing accidents because the road contractors are not being paid. You find the road work is incomplete and what have you. And this continues to affect the transition from informal to formal. And that's why we hold the government accountable. We want to say, in order to move from informal to formal, there's also a commitment of government in supporting this. Once when they want to do something, they should be able to come up and complete it. And second, also, they should be able to make the traders, the workers, aware of the intentions, so that we are able to support the development. Thank you.
Yeah, got you. So we as a country actually have developed a decent work country program, which is known as the DWCPZ. So we as a country are in compliance. We are trying to see what we can do as far as decent work for our workers looks like. It's called the Decent Work Agenda. And we as a country have actually, set up pillars to try and see how we can make that work. Tapiwa, you brought in a very important aspect of domestic workers there, and I think domestic workers are only but an example of a certain working sector that we truly have not humanized and dignified in the contribution that they're making. It can be chaotic, and yet still somehow we are not moving quickly enough to regularize, to consider what social security and decent work might look like for someone in in the informal sector as well as domestic work. Saka tiri kuti kudi in terms of solutions, in terms of the strategies we need to be coming up with.
Okay, thank you. I can come in there for Lucky. I would wanted to just clarify one thing, especially in terms of our informal industry. The reason why we've got challenges is that most of the informal sector are resistant to register, to formalize their sector, so that they become part and parcel of this decent work agenda. Why? One, because it is coupled with the payment of certain contributions and taxes and adherence to law. Most people are very resistant to adherence to laws of this country, especially labor laws. When it comes especially to the aspect of domestic workers, you definitely find that most of us employ domestic workers, but we don't want to adhere to the laws of labor laws of this country. Just the simple thing is just writing a simple contract for your domestic work. Now, when you register with NASA or a pension fund, so that the employer now starts contributing to that pension fund, then also the worker also contributes to that pension, to be protected by the social security aspect. So most people don't want to part with the little amount of money which they have. Yes, we have that problem in this country. We are trying by all means to formalize, because if you look at decent work, it should be able to sustain the economy. And if you look at our vision as a country, Vision 2030, that everyone should be upper middle class, it's part and parcel of that agenda for the decent work program. But because of the resistance, then for the aspect of formalizing informal sector to become formal, it's a very difficult issue.
Odiama, in Uganda, do you also have the same resistance to formalization? And how are you as a country dealing with this resistance?
I think our colleague has really raised a very important question. But of course, looking from the aspect of a trade union perspective, yes, one of the reasons that's why that I see workers, the traders, have most of them, they are not being made aware of the importance of registration, of the importance, of the achievement that they could be able to get from this, from registration, from complying with some of these things. But in Uganda, yes, I must agree that the country is actually moving gradually towards after formalizing. That's why I highlighted that there are steady progresses that are moving on. But as these steady progresses are moving on, like improving in infrastructure, implementing, also the private sector is moving is also moving in implementing policies and programs that is aimed at actually formalizing some of these businesses. But the challenge which is coming along is that these people, they don't carry out, they don't support the skills that could enable these people, the traders, to do their business. And also another thing is also, we are saying, they must also be able to carry out the development, not only in urban areas, also in other rural areas. That is what we are saying. Because we are here speaking for the workers.
Got you. So when you are speaking for the workers now, and as union demands in Uganda, how are you articulating that so that we get to a place where that is responded to? Vanani is highlighting that as long as there's no compliance, and I think Tapiwa is saying that the first part of being able to enjoy social security is compliance, but sometimes there are many factors that will hinder someone from becoming compliant. So how are we making that work so that they are also protected in terms of safety, exposure to hazards that may happen, occupational safety? I'm working to make sure that I put food on the table as a bricklayer, but I might fall because I don't have the safety net. So as union voices in Uganda, what's the plan?
I think now the plan that has worked our house have been that, one, we have been advocating for skill and productivity training for the youth and the women. This will help improve the skills and the productivity for sector workers and enabling them to earn at least high income. And through this skilling program, this skilling program is actually being done through presidential initiative skilling of youth and women. And also, with the also help of the vocational institutions and the DIT training programs, which is being made actually to improve, this is made to improve the skilling and also to increase the chances of employability.
Yeah.
And when the youth and the women have been employed, it increases their chances of actually entering into job market and where they're able to save for their social, where they're able to access.
Got you. All right. So here's.
Say they're able to get a medical insurance. Of course, some of the employers will provide them with the medical insurance, and also they're able to access a better medical.
Got you.
That's the way are coming up as a trade union that will put it to the national center.
Oh, got you. So there's a listener who's just come in and says, for like, this at how business, Kombi and bus drivers, conductors are not
to continue to operate. So that's probably.
As for decent work to apply, for formalization, for compliance to happen, there also has to be a dance, and that's what decent work is looking about. Creating an environment that humanizes the workers through job creation, etc., etc. And we're